Hello, how you doing? How is everybody? Yeah, deep thought. I noticed that actually. I noticed it in the comments. He says, "Hi Gordon. Unfortunately, some rather nasty characters have followed me over from Chunky Mark's channel. I will point them out should they appear in the chat. I have spent years taking abuse from the far right." I suppose that's something I've got to look forward to, isn't it? Um, I noticed in the comments actually, buddy. Somebody was abusing you quite badly. I had literally noticed it about 10 minutes ago. Somebody was following your comments on that you've commented on the videos, and they're literally just following you. So he's gone. He's been reported for. It wasn't nice, some of the things he was saying, but then I get it on a daily basis. So welcome to my world. Hi everyone. So Theresa May's still there. I made a massive mistake the other day. Thursday wasn't it, when there was all that breaking news. I made such a big mistake, such a rookie mistake as well, because it was the first real time I was actually reporting on things as they happened, rather than line things up during the day as to what I wanted to cover. And I foolishly, foolishly took Jacob Rees-Mogg at his word. And when he said that, the members of the ERG will be putting their letters in en masse, there's 80 members of the ERG, and you think, well, there should be at least 40 of those putting their letters in. And it does seem as if, for all reports, 46 have put in now. Of the 48 have put their letters of no confidence in with May. But do you believe that? What do we know? I mean, the people that have actually admitted to putting letters in, there's only about 29 of them. That's all. So I'm going to, in future, only report on what I know to be true rather than what Jacob Rees-Mogg says. It was such a bloody mistake. But then I wasn't the only one that did it. Jess Phillips, who many people, is polarising character she is, but she nailed it. She said at the end of that day, I think she was on Peston that day, or she was. I remember she put out on Twitter that she said today is a classic case of story after story of no news dressed up as breaking news, and I thought that summed it up really quite well. So, hi Nikki, did you go to the Extinction Rebellion? I know you were planning on doing it. Keith Durant mentioned earlier as well in the chat, he said, I have noticed an incredible drop-off in anti-Venezuela mainstream news now lately. Is it just that Trump has forgotten to invade their country about 6 months ago? This is something that Keith Durant said. This is something that Keith Durant said in the chat, literally just before I came on air. Well, US considers adding Venezuela to the terrorist sponsors list. I think this is today it came out. It was either today or yesterday. So yeah, they're looking at putting Venezuela on the state sponsors list. I'll cover that in a story over the next couple of days, no doubt. I've got 2 videos actually they've got to drop on Venezuela, so I could probably tie it in with that. It's just there's so much news coming at us at the moment. It's hard to keep up, especially when you're just one person. The Funkadelic fan says, I loathe Jess Phillips. Many people do. Funkadelic fan, many people do. I loathe her positions on certain things. I don't loathe her as a person. I loathe her positions on certain things. I think she's quite funny in some aspects. She was heard apparently on that Peston shouting at Jacob Rees-Mogg, how are we meant to trust you when you're friends with Boris Johnson? I thought that was quite funny. In Venezuela, largest oil reserves in the world. Fact. And the cleanest, says Wayne 90079. Venezuela does indeed have the largest oil reserves on the planet and does not sell their oil reserves on the petrodollar in dollars. So read into that what you will as to regards to why America are declaring them as a state sponsor of terror when there's no evidence at all to suggest that they are. Somebody said earlier, pot calling kettle black about that, but I suppose it's true. Okay, there's something I want to cover anyway. I'm going to go straight into it. I'm going to go straight into the stories I want to cover. And the first one, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do things a little bit differently tonight because I haven't quite got the slides set up, but I have on this occasion actually written down my thoughts rather than just put bullet points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record this video now, my voice and obviously to the screen for you all, and I'll add the visuals on later. I have got one set up. Now it's I have talked about this quite a bit recently because of the dire situation that he's in, and why we should all care about the situation that Julian Assange is in right now. So I have done many videos on Julian Assange this year, but I want people to understand that it's not because I like the guy. I don't know him at all. I've never met him. For all I know, he could be the most arrogant prick you've ever met in your life, and is everything that some people believe or want you to believe that he is. I just don't know, but I do value his principles, and he does seem, at least, to stick to them. Free speech, transparency, holding power accountable, etc. And actually, excuse me, up until 2016, I actually had a negative opinion of Julian Assange. Now that should give you some idea of how good the media are at their propaganda, and why the average person on the street wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. Give you some idea as to how good the press have, done in not informing the public just on how important these figures are. You see, in 2016, I sort of woke up to the fact that the media ceased doing their jobs as expected a long, long time ago. Julian Assange proved in 2016, among many, many other revelations in those emails that he released, that CNN were feeding Hillary Clinton debate questions. So he proved that the mainstream cable TV news in America were complicit with the Democratic National Committee in lying to the very people who trusted them to be democratic and to be honest. He proved them to be liars. It was Julian Assange's revelations, if you like, that and the WikiLeaks documents which dropped during that period, which brought down the whole house of cards. There was no question anymore that they were all liars, and the mainstream media, especially in America, were just not to be trusted. There was no question anymore. He proved it. Now, I always knew, especially in the UK, I always knew that the media were propaganda outlets and routinely lied to defend the establishment. But I didn't realise to just the extent that they went to achieve this. But obviously, if you go back in history, you can understand why I didn't trust the media. I didn't trust them at all. In my lifetime alone, the media has lied us into 2 Iraq wars. The first one, they cheerleaded us into it with pictures of shock and awe, because I'm sure people will remember this. I remember watching it on television, the first Iraq war. I remember the invasion happening. It was around the same time as the birth of the explosion of satellite television in this country. Cable wasn't around back then. It was satellite television. And the largest of all the companies that brought us these pictures, which primarily were on Sky News, but the BBC also, and ITV, etc. The largest of all these companies was Sky TV. And I remember Sky dazzling us with pictures of shock and awe of the missiles taking off from the planes and the ships. Curiously, not too many of them landing there. We had to go to Al Jazeera for that. But they dazzled us with these pictures, with incredible pictures of us fighting this righteous war in the Middle East against oppressive regimes around the world. And then it went on into the Second Iraq War. They toned down the rhetoric, and it had to be done for just reasons to spread seeds of democracy in Iraq. Do you remember that? In these supposed, in a backlash against these supposed barbaric, backward-thinking countries and dictatorships. But the first Iraq War, the Gulf War, in the early 90s, was the first time I and the entire UK population had truly seen live pictures of a war zone and a war unfold in real time. It was amazing. It was really popular. The viewing figures were off the chart. But of course, what they didn't tell us at the time, and what we found out since to be true, that was all based on lies. And the media knew this, and they profited from it. All wars are based on lies. All wars in history are based on lies, deception, and half-truths, certainly in the last, 3/4 of a century. So you would think that the media should at least have been a little bit suspicious of what was going on and what we were being told by the governments who had routinely lied to us for the last 75 years. But nevertheless, instead, the media wrapped the war up all in a nice package of propaganda and sold the public a version of the truth to manufacture consent for the war that the government wanted them to sell. They've been doing the same thing my entire life. Your entire life. They did it in Iraq again in the early part of the 21st century, as I said. They did it in Afghanistan. They tried to do it recently in Libya over in the UK. And then they went and did it anyway. They are doing it right now in Syria. They are doing it right now with Iran. They are doing it right now with Yemen. And they are doing it right now with a nuclear-armed country in Russia. Scaremongering and promoting this because the establishment want it. However, I didn't realise to just the extent that they did this until 2016. When I started looking into the details surrounding, the upcoming referendum, I knew it was a really big deal. I started researching it because, as I've said previously, the media in this country and the politicians were trying to turn what was essentially the most difficult and complicated decision the country's ever had into a series of sound bites and slogans. So I started to do my own research. And then when Donald Trump was elected shortly after, that was it. I realised I had to do something about it because the media was clearly broken. Clearly. It was clearly not fit for purpose anymore. It was serious. So I started websites and I ended up doing this. But I realised that the mainstream media, especially in America, were derelict in their duties. I cannot say it any plainer than that. And certainly to a very high degree, the UK as well. So the media were now, as of 2016, instead of, the surreptitious lies, now they were just outright lying to people and creating a narrative which could quite possibly lead us into World War III. With a fucking crazy person at the helm of the most powerful military arsenal and the most powerful fighting force that history has ever known. And what's worse, you've got to laugh at this because otherwise you'll cry. This is somebody who would not even have been elected, would not even have been nominated if the media hadn't propped him up in the first place, which, let's remember, was an idea that WikiLeaks showed us through the through the emails that not the pedestrian emails, through the emails that they showed. They showed us that this was a Democratic National Committee idea with the Pied Piper strategy. And then, to top this all off, they then started to attack him and have continued to attack him for the last 2 years from the right, saying he needs to be more aggressive to disprove a narrative that they had spun that he was in Putin's pocket. A narrative that they had spun out of zero evidence and made up for the fact that they were all liars and complicit in the lies of 2016 and an excuse for the status quo to continue. This is something the mainstream media don't tell you, but it's true. Go and ask an American. So anyway, 2016 was the year I stopped reading what was written about Assange by people who supposedly knew him, or didn't in many cases, and started listening to him in his own words. And that was when I began to my opinion of Julian Assange as the person just went away. I have no opinion of him as a person now at all. I respect his morals and I expect what he's trying to do, but as a person, I don't know. Quite possibly, I would end up hating the man. But I did realise that this was a man who would always publish factual and truthful information. Unlike the media, he has never lied to us into war. He has never lied us into war, ever. In fact, quite the opposite. He has told truths that have curtailed wars. I'm thinking specifically of Afghanistan after Collateral Damage was released. Can you see why powerful people have silenced him for the last 8 months and have had him under arbitrary detention for nearly 7 years? If not, if you can't see that, first of all, why not? And second of all, let me continue to really ram my point home, because excuse me, you see, the most astounding political revelations in history, go back, look at them, have always come via leaks. Always. Think back to how different the world would be today had we not known of those revelations, of those leaks. Had we not known about the Watergate scandal that ended the presidency of Richard Nixon. Had we not known about the Pentagon Papers, which proved 4 administrations lied persistently and systematically about the Vietnam War. Or the Downing Street memo that proved MI6 had told Tony Blair that the US knew Saddam Hussein didn't have weapons of mass destruction and were going to go to war anyway. Imagine how more lives would have been lost around the world had we not known of those leaks. Imagine what we may not be aware of right now that the intelligence agencies are doing around the world had it not been for Edward Snowden and what he released via The Guardian and Glenn Greenwald. Now, surveillance is at 1984 levels already, but imagine how bad the surveillance would be without him. And we would be totally unaware of the levels that they are. We already know that they're doing it too because of him. They are basically the biggest news revelations I could find over the last, 50 years. But that's not including those that came from WikiLeaks. That's just the leaks that came from elsewhere. In the last 10 years, WikiLeaks have revealed more leaks of global gravitas, if you like, than all the other media outlets have done in their history combined. Just think about that. In 10 years, they have done more. They have exposed more corruption via leaks and more human rights violations, etc., than all other media outlets combined in their history. They have published well over 10 million documents, and every one of them is 100% true and factual and uncontested. They have proven abuses of power in multiple countries all over the world, including every crime you can think of, from election fraud in Kenya to collateral damage or collateral murder in Iraq. There are probably still revelations that WikiLeaks have already published that we are not aware of, that have not come to light, simply because people haven't got round to reading them all yet. There's that many. The way Julian Assange has done this with WikiLeaks is to create a digital blueprint for the basic principles of journalism. This is a basic requirement of what the people need to have going forward if journalism is to move forward in the digital age with the same principles and rules and the same protections as before. Because what is journalism? I've said this over and over, and I will continue to say it. A, you gather sources of information. B, you verify the information is true and you come to logical conclusions based upon it. C, you release the information to the public if it is in the public interest. You publish it. And D, you protect your sources so they cannot be prosecuted. And you do that because journalism is protected in free Western countries, supposedly. Journalists are protected. And let's remember, It may be the Trump administration that are pushing for this, for the arrest of Julian Assange, but this indictment was sealed during the Obama administration, and it was Obama who had prosecuted more journalists using the Espionage Act, which is a really roundabout way of getting a whistleblower, a journalist who has published whistleblowers' findings. It's a really roundabout way of going after them, but he prosecuted more journalists in his 2 terms via the Espionage Act than every other president in history. He set the precedent for Trump to do what he's doing now. WikiLeaks do those basic principles of journalism better than any media outlet on the planet, which is, coincidentally, one of the many reasons why traditional media outlets are so silent in their support of him. They must be embarrassed. And also, is one of the explanations why they are so quick to attack, smear and discredit him to the point of criminalisation. But this also proves their culpability as well, given the lies and the propaganda that they have peddled and pushed throughout recent history, and indeed to this day. Look at the way the Washington Post ranked 17 negative stories about Bernie in one day during the primaries of 2016. Just look at that. Those attacks and smears during that time were instrumental in Hillary's buying of the nomination, which is what she did. She didn't win it, she bought it. Again, something that WikiLeaks exposed. Squashing Bernie's message, which he then had to migrate to online media and the internet to get his message out. Washington Post were protecting the establishment at all costs by attacking him, remember that. And now they, ironically, have the words "democracy dies in darkness" all over their website on their front page. It's true. Democracy does die in darkness. And the Washington Post helped turn out the lights. Right now, the establishment and corporate media outlets, both at home and in America, are clearly not supporting Julian Assange full-throatedly as they should. The Washington Post are producing things that, the New York Times produced an article that I basically said they squeaked up in defense of Julian Assange. In spite of the fact that if he was prosecuted, it would line them all up in the sights of the Trump administration and the American administration, not just Trump administration. Like I say, Obama set the precedent here. And now these media outlets are obfuscating by repeatedly suggesting that Assange must have committed a crime, and what is he going to be charged with a squadron of paid mouthpieces on Twitter like Neera Tanden saying karma's coming your way to amplify the message. Only covering his ordeal, Julian Assange's plight, if it also follows, or they can also somehow spin it, and I've done videos about this over and over, it all comes down to, hey, does it meet with their collaborating with the Russians to swing the election narrative and the Russiagate bollocks? Which is based on nothing factual of any consequence, and mostly consists of lies and spin. Sorry if the lights start. I need to get better lights for this place. But here's the thing with all this. In many countries around the world, but most importantly on both sides of the Atlantic, people see through it. And WikiLeaks and Julian Assange have support from 2 unique groups. And I've noticed this. These groups are extremely large, extremely vocal, and extremely passionate, especially online. In the US, they're called Bernie Bros. They're called Bernie Sanders supporters. They support Julian Assange because he showed them what they thought was true and what they believed to be true, and how they thought that they were getting cheated by the establishment was true, and they weren't all nuts after all. And in the UK, they're called Jeremy Corbyn supporters. And they, hell, we will not let this happen to our freedom of speech and the values of a free press. They are too important to the fabric of our society, and we will stand up for it. if you come for Julian Assange, we will have something to say. And so should you. Right now watching this, because regardless of your opinion of Julian Assange, or whether you think he's responsible for Trump, or whether you think he's doing what he does for nefarious reasons, it doesn't matter. What he has done is to legally create a must-needed check on power with WikiLeaks in the digital age, a check on those in the most powerful positions around the world who have been lying to us. The same people who are supposed to serve us with honour have instead been lying to us and exploiting us, and indeed killing us throughout history, both at home and around the world. Stand up for free speech. Stand up for the rights of a freedom of the press. Stand up for Julian Assange. And most of all, stand up for yourselves. Thanks, everyone. That's all I wanted to say. Hi, everybody. Thank you, love is the answer. The mainstream media are not the watchdogs of the establishment. They are not even the guard dogs. They are the establishment. Thank you, love is the answer. You're absolutely correct. I still believe that they are, the guard dogs of the establishment, but you're right. They have become the establishment now. They're part of it. They're intertwined. Hi, Neil. Thanks, mate. Do you think a remilitarized EU in 5 or 10 years could take the lead in the showdown with Russia, with the neocon cabal migrating to Europe? It's very worrying that this talk in the EU between France and Germany of them having, a military and a European military. It's very worrying because you're running the risk of turning into America with their war economy and with their jobs program, because their jobs program, let's face it, in America is the military or the military industrial complex. It's the military basically if you're poor and uneducated. So I'm very worried that in 5 or 10 years a remilitarized EU would be doing something, and that's costing lives, most importantly. It's a bad fucking idea is what it is. It's a bad... What's next? Conscription? What if we're, what if they reverse the EU? Are we going to have mandatory... What do they call it? Mandatory military bloody call-up? There's something else I'm really worried about with the EU as well, and that's fucking Article 13. I've been reading a lot on that, and it is not good. The more I read it, the more I think, for what reason? Is it to silence people like me? Is that what it is? Because that's what it seems like. Nikki, thank you for reminding me. We can tell people in the chat or ask them to follow the @Unity4J on Twitter, the @Unity4J on Twitter, and Susie Dawson on YouTube. They work in real time trying to raise things for Julian Assange. Somebody very kindly, thank you Lou, sent me some funds, so I'm going to be going down there as soon as I can in the next few weeks to report from the Ecuadorian embassy. Hopefully I can get down there before he before he's in the clutches of the establishment. We shall see, but I'm hoping to get down there now. It's being funded. We've got to stand up for it. We've got to stand up for freedom of the press, no matter what your personal feelings on Julian Assange. We've got to stand up for it. Let's turn that off. The Random Gamers, GD, what would you say is Assange's best action as a journalist? I think apart from creating this digital, I think his best action as a journalist was creating this platform for people to leak anonymously and safely to him. I mean, obviously there are always going to be risks if you're a whistleblower, and Julian does make that point to every whistleblower that he comes into contact with, I think. I think he's creating that. With regards to his biggest revelations, it's that collateral murder video. It's got to be. That changed the course of foreign policy in the US without a doubt. National Service, Ian Clark. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. I'm a dumbass, so I couldn't think of it quickly enough. Oh, sorry, Trisha. Gordon, there seems to be a 1 second delay between sound and picture. Pause it for a second, then play it again, then. That won't work. What am I talking about? Oh, Neil, good point, mate. Gordon, I lived in Germany and Italy for a few years, and one good thing about losing wars is that young people are not as keen on joining the army, hence the need for conscription. It's I don't think they'll do it by conscription. I think they're more likely to look at the American model and copy that and make it so if you don't have the advantages of being brought up in a world where you're going to get educated and informed, and you haven't got the advantages that people who have a middle class or better opportunities have, you might have no options but the military, especially if you want to have your education. I think they're more likely to follow that blueprint than they are to bring back conscription, but it's basically the same thing, isn't it? Gordon, go on a Saturday afternoon and join the Assange demo outside Harrods, says Nikki. I don't think I'll be able to do it this Saturday, but next Saturday I may be able to. I shall check. I'm going to go down there soon, that's for sure. Julian Assange paved the way to Snowden, says Chamchi Gimbap. Julian Assange, many people don't realise, but he saved Snowden's life. When he was trapped in, I think it was Hong Kong he was trapped in, he was one of the people that got him to Russia. He actually said he shouldn't go to South America because it would be easier for the Americans to get their hands on him and assassinate him in South America than it would in Russia. But as we know, his passport was revoked while he was on a Russian runway, so that's why he got stuck there. Everybody wants to end the wars tooth time. You are correct. We need to, and we can come back. We can stop it. We can stop it from happening. They cannot continue to doing this, guys. Eventually, the people will come for you, as the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Blythe says. There's something else I want to cover, so let me just set it up here. Properties, delete that. Woohoo! I'm getting efficient at this. This is quite easy. So following on, from what I was just saying about the media being in violation of everything that they supposedly should do, and being derelict in their duty to inform the public, especially in the United States and the United Kingdom, but around the world, in Australia, it's just as bad as I hear, and I've got subscribers from Canada, Switzerland and Germany, I know, that say exactly the same thing. It's just as bad in their countries. But there was an Ipsos poll that came out on trusting journalists in the UK, and found that the journalists are only marginally ahead of politicians in favourability. Not surprising. Here's the Ipsos poll. You can see there nurses, doctors, teachers, engineers, professors, scientists. They come top, all having over 80%. Then you got judges, 83% as well. Members of the armed forces and the police at 76 and 78%. Obviously, you would not find the police up that high in America. I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought that was much lower. But journalists, politicians were bottom. But I think they got pissed off with politicians with being bottom, so they Ipsos started to add another category in there of advertising executives, and they come out bottom now. But look at that. Politicians generally, just 19%. Just 19% generally trust them to tell the truth. 19%. Government ministers, MPs, that is, 22%. Journalists, just 26%. Just 1 in 4 people. That shows just how bad they have become in what they're doing, in their job. And there you can see the top professors, engineers, teachers, doctors, nurses, scientists up there as well. But just look at that. Government ministers 22%, journalists 26%, estate agents just above them. So if you're a journalist in the mainstream media, I've got news for you. You suck at your job, at least generally you do. 3 out of 4 of you. This is why, I keep saying we've got to support independent media. And why I don't actually say all the time support me. Obviously I do at the end of my videos, I do say that. But it's why we've got to support independent media and share their voices online and tell our friends and family who really is to be trusted in the media. And it's not your Rachel Maddow's, It's not those in the media over here. There are certain people you can trust over here. There are certainly more reporters over here you can trust than there are in America. And America's a much bigger country with a lot more reporters. But there are certainly more over here. And I'm talking mainstream. But with regards to independent, there isn't many in this country. But they are springing up. The likes of Novara Media. The likes of UK Column. These are springing up. And this is why we need to support them, because the journalists, the mainstream media, are just going to lie us into more and more war if we let them continue. Independent media give you the truth. We can. We're not beholden to to power. We're not beholden to, the handful of billionaires that actually own the media in this country and in the US. And that's why we should all support them. I will do a video soon, actually, on like my top 10 independent outlets, I think. I did that for my websites a while ago, and it went down well, so I think I'll do a video on it. And I might even do a video the same as I did about the American cable news, who to trust, who's the best, or rather, who's the best, and rank them like that. So we'll see. Trisha K, thank you very much. JC4PM, she says, I absolutely agree. I do. I honestly have the feeling that he will protect Julian Assange. I certainly have a feeling that he's going to make it a hell of a lot more difficult for the Americans to get their hands on him, for the authorities to get their hands on him. We'll see. But I do think I think he's not speaking up for Julian Assange at the moment because he doesn't want to give the establishment ammunition to throw at him to make his opinion. He doesn't want to give them any ammunition, really, for them to fire and smear and slander him. That may cost him the general election. He's trying to do as little as possible and just let the Tories hang themselves, and he's played a blinder so far. But he better do something, and he better speak up about Julian Assange when he does get in, if he does get in, because otherwise my support for him is going to leave very quickly indeed, because it will mean that he's not a man of his convictions. I think he will, but we'll see. What's wrong with UK Column, Paul? Somebody anti-UK Column there. What's wrong with them? I thought they were great. George Colon. Wow, Gordon, getting close to 10k subs. Awesome. I know. 10,000 people have clicked subscribe to my little channel. 10,000 almost. Well, it's over 10,000 with the amount that it's over 10,000 with the amount that YouTube have unsubscribed. Honestly, guys, they unsubscribe like 20 people every single day. They unsubscribe. YouTube unsubscribe about 500 people a month of mine. Honestly, 500 a month. I've only been going 9 months. I should be close to 15,000 now. I don't think, and you can always tell when they do it as well, because if you go to if you go to real-time stats, which you can do, you can see it's not people randomly -1, maybe lose 1 here, maybe lose 1 at 5 o'clock, 1 at 7 o'clock, 3 at 10. No, they come in blocks of 20 at like 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. and that sort of thing. You can see it's YouTube just unsubscribing people. It's infuriating. And that's me. Just at 9,000 subscribers, I'm losing 500 a month. Can you imagine how many subscribers there unsubscribing to those channels which have got 500,000 subscribers or 1 million? It's insane. Absolutely insane. Yes, thank you for liking the stream, Sinead. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mission. Keep doing what you do, Gordon. Your work is much needed. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm trying to do my absolute best for you. You support me, and you're my bosses. Remember that. You're my bosses. The public. You. On to 100k, says MT Union. Well, wouldn't that be fantastic? That is one of the most disgusting drinks I've ever had in my life. Oh, God, that was vile. Never have that. Oh. Some caramel coffee shit. Ugh. Sinead, same things happened to Graham Elwood, political vigilante, Gordon. Yeah, he's been going longer than me. Lord knows how many subscribers he's had unsubscribed by YouTube. If I'm having 500 a month go, Lord knows how many had been unsubscribed from him. I think he's only on about 12 or 13,000 now, which is just ridiculous. He would have picked up 12 or 13,000 just from a few Jimmy Dore shows. It's pathetic, it really is. They're not even hiding it anymore. They still haven't answered, by the way, why MSNBC's, CNN's, and Fox News' plays on YouTube doubled overnight in January when they changed their algorithm for to make it more difficult to get ads played. They still haven't answered. I've asked several times, and other people keep retweeting it as well, but they just haven't answered. It's really quite comical. Mr. First Do No Harm says, have you noticed how difficult it is to Brexit news on YouTube? I'll tell you what I have noticed how difficult it is to get news on YouTube, to find on YouTube. Me. You can't find me on YouTube if you don't type in Gordon Dimmack. If you type in independent UK news, independent UK news outlet or anything like that, you will not find me at all. You just will not. They make it almost impossible. Tim Black has been stuck at 105k for years now, says Red Corvair. Okay. 105k. He's done some good work, Tim Black has, but he's not for everybody. I can't imagine why he would be stuck at 105k for years there. Doesn't he go a little bit too far? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking about things I don't know. B Green says it's as if Brenda Snipes is managing YouTube. Yeah, she's Brenda Snipes, who oversaw the elections in Florida. Oversaw the cheating of Tim Canova twice. Yeah, she resigned. So no doubt she'll get a job within the DNC very soon, or as a lobbyist for it. You can almost guarantee it. Nicky M says George Galloway has lost thousands of people on Twitter and YouTube. Yes, and Twitter and YouTube will probably say that they were Russian bots. Oh, it is, Phil. Caramel coffee shit. Nescafe caramel coffee shit. Don't buy it. It's disgusting. That's hot. Harriness's question on NATO was worth a look, says 2-time. Where's Harriness? Come on, Harriness, I know you're here. I can't find it, mate, now. Sorry, Harriness, ask it again if you can. I can't see it. Saw a video of yesterday of George Galloway says Butch 1976. He was on supporting Julian Assange. Yeah, the people supporting Julian Assange the loudest, strangely enough, are those voices that have been right about the most things over the last 2 or 3 decades, and also the ones that the establishment and the media slander and smear the most. Have you noticed that? I'm starting to see it more and more. It really is. You start looking at it and you start thinking, well, it's fucking obvious. I mean, look. Look at these people. Look at people like him. People like Craig Murray. People like Peter Ford. These are truth tellers who have been ostracised and discarded and smeared and slandered by the mainstream. Deep Thought says, you ever heard of this guy, Sargon of Akkad? Yeah, he's from Manchester, isn't he? I think. Didn't he used to be a bit of a lefty and now he's gone full Trump? He calls himself a centrist, doesn't he? I think he had... Didn't he used to collaborate with Carl Kalinske quite a bit, and then they sort of don't anymore because of some falling out. Somebody just said Jamie Rowe just said Sargon is a right-wing troll. I don't know about that. I haven't really seen any evidence to prove that, but he might be as well. I don't know. I don't really get a chance to watch too many people now. I'm sort of setting my ways. Let's just set this other thing up I wanted to talk about, because this other thing I wanted to talk about was... It got covered in the media, but it got covered in the media, but not really. Not as much really as it should. So I'm just setting this up. I've just realised I haven't done a card for it. No, I'm not going to do it actually, guys. I have got another story lined up that I wanted to cover on Extinction Rebellion that happened over the weekend. But I haven't got the card set up for it. I forgot to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that set up tonight and record it in the morning. Because I want to go into depth on it as well, and I spent a lot of time on that Julian Assange piece today. So I'm going to go into depth on that Extinction Rebellion and do the video tomorrow, rather than do another little clip tonight. Because there's a couple of things that I want to talk about in it. Something that was great that happened. I mean, it's a fantastic thing, but there were other things that I saw that really people who are involved in these protests need to be aware of. You can't, and I don't want to talk negatively about the one negative thing about it, because there's so much good, but don't break the law by vandalizing things and spray painting things, and there are other ways to do it. Non-violent civil disobedience is the way to go. Do not vandalize things. Um, I'll cover it in the video because there's a lot of good that happened. And I tell you what, there were so many people. There were so many people. I haven't seen. Does anybody know? Nikki, I think you were there, weren't you? Extinction Rebellion, or you were closer. I think you. How many were there? I couldn't see it in the stuff that how many were estimated to be there, because the crowds were bloody huge, and I was trying to look for the size. It was spray chalk. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was spray paint. I saw it. I saw in some instances it was spray paint. There were 2 instances. There were the spray chalk, not a problem. I noticed that, but it was spray paint. Not spray paint, easy to wash off with water. Okay. All right. I'll look into it, Nikki. I'm glad now that I haven't done it then. I'm glad now that I haven't done it. There were 6,000 on 5 bridges. How many were at the Tommy Robinson rally? But it wasn't. But it was close, wasn't it? Do you remember all the press that Tommy Robinson thing got? Do you remember? It was non-stop, wasn't it? Yeah, I know you use spray chalk, Nikki. I know you did it was on the roads and everything as well. But there were people who spray painted on the buildings. They got arrested for it. I saw them. So there were a couple of instances. We do need to stop that from happening. If it was spray chalk, then it's bad. But I'll check into the instances and see what they were charged with. But I'm pretty sure it was vandalism. But that's only a tiny bit of the video I wanted to concentrate on. The most of it, was fantastic. I mean, there's got to have been the same amount of people in London or very close to it that were at those rallies for Tommy Robinson when he was rightfully jailed, in my opinion, for almost perverting the course of justice, let's face it. And those people who they went on to get massive sentences. Two times says, so much prefer your carefully considered videos, don't rush stuff, mate. Thank you. I really wanted to cover it tonight, the Extinction Rebellion. But it's okay. I'd rather do more research on it. I didn't have long to do that much research on it and watch videos, and you have to try and get to the independent sources of information as well, because the mainstream media do pervert it so much. As Nikki has pointed out there, I'll have to check into it. Even spray chalk gets you charged with criminal damage, she says, even if you brought water to clean it off. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. I'll look into it. But it was fantastic to see. There were thousands of people on 5 bridges. Must have brought London to an absolute standstill. And it didn't get half the media that Tommy Robinson got. Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll get the facts and figures and put that together in the video. I think that's a wise decision not to do it tonight and record it. But the 2 clips that I've done, that one for Julian Assange, I want to actually do some slides and that sort of thing on. Deep Thought says, totally agree, Gordon. These people are just looking for an excuse to crack schools. Don't give them one. Yeah, non-violent, civil disobedience. Non-violent. That's the important bit. And civil. It works. Look back in history. That sort of protest works more efficiently than any other, especially violent. Yeah, just look back in history. Gandhi showed the way. It only takes something like, what was it I heard? It only takes something like 3% of the population to protest something, and it changes the course. It changes policy, changes. 3%. That's not that much. If there's 65 million people, that's 2 million people, that's all. 65 times 3. Yeah, 1.95 million people if there's 65 million people in the country. That's all it takes. 1.95 million people in the streets will change their minds. Imagine if Julian Assange got 1.95 million people in the streets on a day in the next couple of weeks. Imagine that. They would have to cover it. They would have to change. They would have to know that we fucking mean business. You hand this man over to the Americans so he can be tortured in a black site will fucking have something to say about it. And I don't think the establishment realise Jeremy Corbyn supporters, the vast majority of them, are very passionate about Julian Assange. I see it online. I see it. The loudest Jeremy Corbyn supporters, especially online, are usually defenders of freedom of the press and free speech and of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. They know how important they are. We will have something to say about it when they come for him, if they come for him. I think you've got to understand, you know what, if they come for Julian Assange, you've got to, and I thought about this the other day, you've got to imagine that Julian Assange will have something up his sleeve. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, I wouldn't be surprised if the moment he is in US custody, if it ends up with that, there would be a huge dump by WikiLeaks of documents. I mean, remember when they were, remember what happened with the Vault 7. I wouldn't be surprised if something happened, if he had something up his sleeve. Yeah, you know what, Neil, you brought up a very good point there, Neil. How do the Extinction Media folk propose to save all the species? By mid-century, we have 10 billion human beings driving at least 3 billion cars on current projections. Yeah, the 3 billion cars, but the Extinction Rebellion will have an answer to that, and that's electric. But the point of 10 billion human beings on the planet, that's a massive problem. If you speak to David Attenborough, he tells you that the overpopulation of the planet is one of the most important things, and it's up there with climate change. That's David Attenborough, he says that. So it is in my climate change video, that is, that I haven't released yet because I'm still not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. I haven't worded it right yet. I won't release it until it's right. Extinction Rebellion is fighting for animal species as well as us. Yeah, they are. But overpopulation is a problem. It's a massive problem, and we cannot continue. It's not just climate change. You know, it's made a big deal about that video about palm oil that was banned by Iceland, that Iceland did. That was this. It never made it through the regulatory process because clear ads or whatever it was said that it was originally done in collaboration with Greenpeace, so it couldn't be done. It's worked out for the best because it's got way more views and more publicity than it would do on a few segments on TV. Jesus Zamora says, Gordon, why doesn't Britain have more entrepreneurs? You guys have single payer. Well, I think we do have a lot of entrepreneurs, mate. I think we do. I think we do, yeah. We've got some quite successful entrepreneurs. I certainly know what you're coming from with single payer. It makes life a hell of a lot easier. Talking to Americans who are against single payer is like, it's like talking to somebody who is from a different planet. It's really quite remarkable, you know, how propagandized they are into believing things that just are not true. The whole reason I started this channel was because of a lie about our NHS, or rather 7 lies in one tweet by Donald Trump. You know, we'll defend the NHS to the death in the UK. We really will. It's that important. You know, and I'm sick of Americans saying, oh, you want healthcare for free? It's not free, you fucking buffoon. It's not free. It's an insurance-based system with one insurance company that is the government. There are various ways of doing it. You can give the government more control or less than control. You know, if you actually did Obamacare correctly, you could have a system like Germany. But you didn't. You did Obamacare in a way that was a giveaway to the insurance and pharmaceutical industry and let them carrying on jacking the prices up on life-saving medication. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious to me that people in America But then, look at the media. Look, you've got Jake Tapper coming out and fucking lying about it. Being called out on it and then rectifying it and still lying about it. It's amazing. It really is. Amazing. My friend in America, what he went through, what he's gone through with his health. And he's got insurance. He's got insurance. What he went through is just... Can you imagine being diagnosed? If you're in the UK, can you imagine being diagnosed with cancer? Going for your treatment, and even though you have paid insurance, you have to pay a $5,000 deductible. The first $5,000 of your treatment you have to pay for. Can you imagine that? For life-saving treatment, you've got to find $5,000. Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder with that happening with 39 million people or whatever it is uninsured in America, and with the levels of poverty that they've got, and the levels of I don't mean to laugh, but I just find it fucking stupid because it's tragic. But with all that poverty and all those problems, is it any wonder? And all those, worrying about the health and the healthcare, and the number one thing on GoFundMe being payment of health and payment of surgeries. Is it any wonder that rising crime happens in those areas? It's like, these things are fucking connected, Do you realise, what? You had 2 shootings the other day on the same day. It's all connected. For Christ's sake, open your eyes, you idiots. Healthcare is a big deal. Big deal. There's only so many rules and limitations you can put on guns. And there's only so far that you can go in America now that there are 300 million guns. There's only so far you can go. Thank you, love, is the answer. There's only so many things you can do. Regulating the guns is not going to solve your mass shooting problem. I tell you, universal healthcare, a single payer, Medicare for all system will do. I am positive of this. And I'm sure if I looked, I could find the statistics to back it up. But I am positive that a Medicare for all system will do much, much more in going towards bringing down the amount of mass shootings that you have in America than actually regulating the guns will. I put that out there, and I bet you it's bloody close. Thank you, love, is the answer. Deforestation caused by animal agriculture is massive. Veganism is essential to stop large-scale deforestation. I wouldn't say veganism. I've got a problem with this. I wouldn't say veganism is essential. What I would say is there needs to be massive change in the way we eat food, and veganism is one option that will solve that. And the reason I word it like that is because if you word it, veganism is essential to stop large-scale deforestation, gammons in this country roll their eyes and go, oh, you've lost them. You've lost them because you're telling them what to do and you're telling them how they've got to live their life in future. I think education is essential to stop large-scale deforestation. I think education. You've just given me an idea, love, is the answer. Thank you very much for that. But veganism is definitely would go a long way, that's for sure. Yeah, you've given me an idea. I have to write things down, guys. When I have ideas, I have to write things down because I'm starting to get old. I'm starting to forget things. I really am. I'm starting to forget things. The amount of times I go into a room, it doesn't happen that often, but I walk into a room and I get in there and I think, what the fuck did I come here for? What did I come here for? I am starting to lose my mind, I think. Mind you, that's been happening for the last 20 years. So. Talk to address. Deforestation. All right. Okay. D. Martin says ACA was put together by the health insurance industry and a conservative think tank. Conservative think tank, yes. The Heritage Foundation. It was the ACA was the brainchild of fucking Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney of the Heritage Foundation. That is your healthcare in America. Thank you, Uncle Sam. Butch 1976. Gordon, a friend I have from America, has an illness that is really bad, and to get help, she needs to have a rally around for public donations. Yeah, it's honestly, it's just, and these are people that have insurance. It's, you know, National Health Service. Do it. Don't worry, Gordon. Jamal Thomas does it all the time. What, forget things or write things down? Chris Foster says. Where is he now? I know he was in Spain, wasn't he? I think his wife is coming to London, so I think he must be in not the Czech Republic. Is it the Czech Republic? It might be the Czech Republic. Somewhere in Eastern Europe he is at the moment on his jollies. Jason Irving says, invest in science and prioritise things like carbon capture, nuclear fusion and clone meat rather than factory farming. We're not going to stop consumption, so find new ways of providing. Sure possible. It is, Jason. And this is one of the reasons why this Extinction Rebellion that happened the weekend is such a big deal and why it deserves more press than it actually gets, because this is the thing that will do us in. This is the thing that your kids and your grandkids are going to look at you and go, what the fucking hell didn't you do something more than that? Hey, what did you do? What did you do about it? Really? You wrote posts on Facebook. Well, whoop-de-doo, Grandma. That's what they're going to say to you. To these people who are just doing nothing. They're not going to be happy when, the sea level's around their necks. We need instant democracy on smartphones, etc. on a daily basis, says Wayne. I like the idea of direct democracy. I've got to look into it more. How having, 3 or 4 things maybe each year to vote on. For instance, you could have marijuana legalization or marijuana decriminalization. You could start it off with decriminalization. I think that's the way to go, to be honest. I mean, I do think that legalizing it, taxing it and regulating it would be better for the economy, but there is an argument to say no, decriminalize it, that way we have the control instead of the corporations. Somebody said that to me not long ago and I thought, yeah, maybe Phil James is here, maybe he can fill it. He might have been him or somebody who knew. But it's a good thought. Decriminalisation, yeah, I'd settle for that. I think it makes better sense for the economy and for jobs to legalise it, tax it, and regulate it. But decriminalisation, there is an argument to say, right, go that far and no further, because then we have the control and it won't be bastardised and corporatised. They've got a point if you think about it. I literally don't know anyone who trusts the media, say Pam Ryan. I do. She was attacking Carl Kalinske yesterday. Fucking Louise Mensch. Oh God, that woman. I meant to do a video on it today, but honestly, she went on such a Twitter rant last night that there's so many, and I went to bed in the end because she was still going. But basically, what's happened is the Justice Democrats and new Congress people have come into the Congress in America, and Congress in America is now Democratic. It's majority Democratic. However, 24 of the people that have come in are people who advocate for Medicare for all. So they're not supporting Nancy Pelosi. So Nancy Pelosi is struggling to get the votes required and struggling to get the support required to become leader of the House. Now, this is really important, not for the people. It's really important for the corporations in America, because Nancy Pelosi is the person who takes the most money. That's why she is leader of the Democrats in the House. She takes the most money. She gives that to her friends for them to, win their elections and win their re-elections. And in return, they vote for her. But the thing is, with people now coming on for Medicare for all, and that's something that Nancy Pelosi won't support, she can't get the vote. So what's happened is people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Justice Democrats and others that are coming in are now being attacked. And it's fucking hilarious to watch, because it's almost like they can't understand that we are watching this and we can see it's coordinated. We can see the establishment is working together. We can see people like Jen Kirkman and Louise Mensch saying the same things over and over and attacking Justice Democrats. Fucking Whoopi Goldberg did it on The View the other day, for Christ's sake. It's like, do you not understand that we can see this and put two and two together? Do you not understand that we can see what you're doing? Do you not understand that? Are you fucking that up your own arses by now? You don't realise that people have got brains in their heads. And when you've got Louise Mensch attacking Carl Kalinske, I think it was hilarious, over and over and over again, saying that, it's like nobody tell her that Carl Kalinske resigned from the Justice Democrats 6 months ago. Nobody tell her that, or almost a year ago. Nobody tell her that. No, it didn't matter. She still kept attacking him, asking him if he was. She was asking. She was asking him if he had registered as a Russian agent. It's like, thank you, America. Thank you for taking that absolute fruitcake off our hands. Thank you. Can you please take Katie Hopkins and Nigel Farage full time as well? I know you've been flirting with them on Fox News in the last year. Please take those two characters as well. Oh, by the way, you know what? Have Tommy Robinson as being as you fucking love him so much. We don't want him. It's been coordinated. You can see they're attacking the Justice Democrats and the establishment. It's coordinated. They're all doing it in fucking unison. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. But then, as somebody pointed out, the media are the establishment, especially the mainstream media in America. Right, I've been going over an hour. Okay, guys. Two-time, before I go, I'm going to read this out. Two-time says, in my honest opinion, the football hooligan Tommy Robinson is an Islamophobe and is trying to destroy what remains of our post-colonial society. Is he Islamophobic? I think he certainly stokes up Islamophobic tensions and certainly feeds off that. I think more importantly, Tommy Robinson is supported by factions who are Zionists. And that really should tell you all you need to know about how much trust you should put in Tommy Robinson. Thanks very much, everyone. Down at the bottom. Keep on hanging on, Gordon. You too, Pam Ryan. Thank you very much, everybody. Peace, everyone. I'm out. I'll drop more videos tomorrow. I've got a ton that I want to record, and I'll definitely work on that Extinction Rebellion one. Make sure that is dropped sometime today with the two I've done tonight. I won't edit the two I've done tonight in this live stream. I'll put those out tomorrow. Peace, everyone. Love you all. Keep fighting.